Hello, Dr. Sushma Singh this side. Today in Unit 15, the middle class, we continue our topic concept of class. Taking the clue from Marx, Max Weber made classifications such as classes, status, groups, and parties based on distribution of power within a community. He defined class as when a number of people have in common a specific causal component of their life chances in so far as this of goods and opportunities for income and is represented under the condition of the commodity or labor market. In Weber's theory, class situation is ultimately the market situation. He goes on to elaborate that the factor that creates class is ambiguously an economic interest, and only those interests involved in the existence of the market. Joseph Schumpeter states that there are basically four problems that beset the class theory in sociology. In doing so, he takes into account the scientific rather than philosophical and the sociological rather than the immediate economic. The four problems are: there is the problem of the nature of the class, and as part of this problem, the function of class in the vital processes of the society whole. Problem of social cohesion, the factors that constitute every social class. The problem of class formation, the question of why the social whole has never been homogeneous, revealing organic stratification. The problem is wholly distinct from the series of problems that are concerned with the concrete causes and conditions of an individual determined historically given class structure. Class is defined by the Schumpeter is more than the aggregation of class members. A class is aware of its identity as a whole, sublimates itself as such, and has its own peculiar life and characteristic spirit. However, a noted phenomena of that class members behave towards one another in a fashion characteristically different from that their conduct towards members of the other classes. They are in closer association with one another. They understand one another better. They work more readily in concern. They close rank with the erect barriers against the outside. They look into the same segment of the world with the same eye from the same viewpoint, in the same direction. Social intercourse within the class barriers is promoted by the similarity of manners and habits of the life, or things that are evaluated in a positive or negative sense that arouse interest. Classes, once they have come into being, hardened in their mold and perpetuate themselves even when the social conditions that created them have disappeared. Pointing to the history of the term social class, Stanislaw Oswaki argues that from the second half of the 18th century onward, class has been an interesting subject of sociology. He considers two specifying versions of the concept of class. The first is social class is seen as a group distinguished in respect of relations of the property. This is basically the economic version of social class. The class system is contrasted with the group system in the social structure in which an individual's membership of the group is institutionally determined, and in which privileges or discriminations result from the individual's ascription to a certain group. This is the result not of birth or an official document such as title of nobility, but is the consequence of the social status otherwise achieved. In various social systems, one can observe two or more coexisting types of the relation of class dependence. Three assumptions which appear to be common to all conceptions of class society can be stated in the following manner. First, the classes constitute a system of most comprehensive groups in the social structure. Second, the class division concerns social status is connected with a system of privileges and discriminations not determined by biological criteria. And the third is the membership of individuals in a social class is relatively permanent. Out of myriad way of understanding class, one can elicit three or four such characteristics. They are by no means of equal importance in the history of social thought. The vertical order of the social classes, the existence of superior and inferior categories of the social statuses which are superior or inferior in respect of some system of privileges and discriminations. Accepting such a class structure would mean class stratification. Distinctness of the permanent class interest. Class consciousness. Class consciousness involves not only class identification but also a consciousness of the place of one's class in the class hierarchy, a realization of class distinctness, class interest, and possibility of class solidarity as well. Social isolation. The absence of closer social contexts, social distance. In the US, according to this definition, a social class is the largest group of people whose members have intimate social access to one another. A society is a class society in respect of these characteristics if there exist within it distinct barriers to social intercourse and if class boundaries can be drawn by means of an analysis of the interpersonal relations. Not only is social isolation involved but also the effect of this isolation and the effect of differences in the degree of access to the means of consumption. These class criteria are not independent of each other, given the fact that these characteristics are interdependent. Oswaki concludes that there could be various definitions of class. The pertinent question at this juncture is how do we define middle class in India in general and in contemporary times in particular. Here we want to close this lecture. Thanks for so patientful hearing.